How's it going? My name is Brent from Encore PPF and Tint, and today we are going to bulk the front bumper on a Tesla Model Y. So what we've done with this is we've removed the tow hook cover as well as the fender flares here. And that's going to allow us to get that material back in underneath the fender flare so we don't have an edge there. As well as here, we're going to go ahead and trim this and then wrap that in. So around the tow hook cover as well as over the tow hook cover, there will be no edges of the material. Everything's going to get wrapped around. Let's see. That's basically it. As far as extra stuff that we do with this one, like I said, we are going to be bulking this on there. This product is the Premium Shield Next Gen material. And I mean, the bumper is pretty straightforward, except for this part on both sides. This part gets tough. So, you know, the thing is that you want to get enough stretch on this bumper that down here, you don't have to cut this out and put a second piece in here. Because what you can do is if you understretch it, you leave too many fingers for this to actually go down. Now, if you overstretch it, you make it incredibly difficult for the material to stick in here, and you're gonna have a lot of problems with failures. So another thing that we did with this is we went ahead and took 70% rubbing alcohol and really wiped down this whole area really well to make sure that we're removing any waxes or anything like that from the bumper so we get really good adhesion. We also wiped all this down back in here, so any spot you're going to be wrapping, we make sure and get that with the rubbing alcohol as well. It wouldn't hurt really to go over the whole bumper with rubbing alcohol, although I'm usually just doing the areas that I know are gonna be a little bit more difficult spots for the paint protection film to stick. Terrific, well, let's go ahead and get started on this one. This is my first time using my lift with a customer car. I'm super excited about it. I'm gonna be able to stand in front of this or sit in my chair and not hurt my back. For you young folks out there, you won't really know how awesome that is until you get a little bit older and your back starts getting a little bit more, see, I usually throw the B word in there, but for YouTube, it's probably just, you know, it starts to complain a little bit, starts to nag at you. Okay, let's go ahead and get this. So I've got the material laid on this glass here, or hung on the glass anyway, backwards so that the release liner, the release liner is actually facing us. And this allows me to do this myself without using the reverse roll method. So as soon as you get the liner off, you want to make sure and wet it down, wet the material down. That helps get rid of the static so that you don't have it attracting things that are floating around in the air. I mean, obviously we hope that there's minimal stuff floating around in the air, but let's go ahead and get rid of that static as quick as possible. All right, we'll wet the car down. Okay, get this set into place. I do have a decent amount of slip in here today. I'm actually running at 12 milliliters per gallon. Yeah, that's gonna make this interesting. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm gonna hold that in place with one hand. And then I'm gonna go ahead and tack this to the fender right there a little bit, and that should hopefully keep it from sliding off. This is a lot. I usually don't have this much soap in my slip solution. I'm usually hovering somewhere. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Well, it's going to keep it interesting, that's for sure. Okay. All right, terrific. So now let's go ahead and get ready for this stretch. Now we need to stretch the material enough that we get rid of all the fingers here on the top. And then we want this to tighten up a little bit here as well. Look at that. I filled up my tack solution before we started the install. That's crazy talk. Always running out of tack solution on my installs. Okay, I'm going to put some tack solution right in there. Go ahead and put some slip solution on the surface so we can slide across it with the squeegee. And then this is actually sitting, that's sitting okay. Let's actually double check here. We're getting pretty close to not having enough material, so I am going to bring it over a bit like that there. Okay, that's looking really good. So we've got great coverage all the way over there. And now let's go ahead and I'm going to squeegee out just right in here, all the way down to the fog light. Okay, now what we're going to do is we'll stretch over to this side and tack that down into place, and that'll help allow us to stretch out all this extra material here. And actually, let's take a look at this. This is a really big finger here. So what I'm actually going to do is lift this back up a little here. We'll get some more slip back in there. Let's see what we can do about like that. So basically I just took the material and put some of the fingers over here. And then let's go ahead and get some tack in here. And then we'll squeegee this part out again. Okay, now we're going to stretch over. So the way that I do this is very similar to installing a kit. I'm going to go ahead and stretch this into place. So I'm going to use my whole arm here, and I'm going to pull the material this way until we get enough stretch in it that we get rid of almost all the fingers here. And before I do that, we're going to add some tack in here so that once we get it stretched into place, we can immediately tack it down. Okay, and as you can see, that's pretty much eliminated all the fingers there. We are getting some going this way, so we want to kind of get rid of those, and that's basically going kind of up and down with the material. Something about like that. I'm going to get rid of a little bit more of that guy. There we go. Okay. Squeegee this out. Got a little dot right here underneath the paint protection film. Yep. Okay, we're gonna get that out real quick. So I'm just scratching that with my fingernail, and then we're gonna blow it out. Okay, now let's go ahead and stretch down to get rid of this stretch mark in the adhesive or in the material. All right, I do have a lot of slip in here today, so let's go ahead. I'm going to re-tack this part with some tack solution, and let's break this loose over here like that. Okay, so we'll go ahead and pull this tight again, just enough to lay this flat out again. And then we're just squeegeeing this up and out underneath the headlight. Now we want to go ahead and get this pulled down. And actually, let's get a little tack in there. Okay, great. So basically all we're trying to do is get rid of these lines here. So it's not a ton of stretch, just a little bit. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and just continue our way around. We're not gonna worry about most of this other stuff just yet. We can leave this whole part untacked because that's gonna be a whole nother process as far as stretching down into here. All right, pull it back, get rid of pre-tacking, which is nice and soapy today, so we're not really having any of that. Okay, and then we're gonna pull this tight over here until we get rid of most of the material that's bunched up just like that, there. Okay, and I'm gonna put a little bit of tack in here because I am running so soapy today that that is not going to want to stay in place. All right, so you can see I just got my hands off of there as quick as possible because you don't, wherever your hand is sitting, you're gonna get pre-tacking as far as if I just hold my hand there because of the tack solution that we just put in there. Okay, and actually I got a little ahead of myself there. Let's go ahead and check this out and see if we're going to be able to get rid of this finger here. Let's take a look. Yeah, that shouldn't be any problem at all. Okay, but I don't like it, so we're gonna go ahead and pull it back. Okay, right along this edge, I'm gonna put some tack solution, and then let's go ahead and hold on the top and bottom and stretch this into place. And then I'm gonna hold this in place with my knee there. And then realign this here so that we can get rid of most of these fingers. What do you guys call those? I call them fingers. I'm not sure what their actual term is for those. Okay. Now let's go ahead and get rid of some of those so that we can lay this down. Something like that looks really good. And we'll take all this up and squeegee all this out. Okay. I'll put a little bit more tack in here because that's not seeming to want to stay down. And then we're gonna squeegee up to that point and push right into the recess between the bumper and the fender. I'll go ahead and do this all the way across underneath the headlight. All right, put a little slip on the surface and we'll go ahead and squeegee up and push in underneath the headlight and then hold. So I would say I'm using, I'm gonna start kind of talking about my pressures as like soft, medium, and hard. I'm doing pretty hard pressure right there. Once I get into the recess, and even while I'm just squeegeeing this out, it's pretty hard pressure. Okay, great. Now, like I was saying before, we only want enough of a stretch in here so that we can get the fingers out of this and get this laid down. You do want to be careful because you don't want to overstretch this area. And I would say that that looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and pull this back up right to this line here. And then if you lift up like that, you want to make sure and get some slip underneath underneath there so that it doesn't start tacking up immediately. Okay. And then on this edge here, we'll go ahead and put some tack in here. And then we'll put barely no stretch, as little as possible on there to get this to pretty much lay flat like that. Okay, let's squeegee all this out. Use a swipe and hold here over the edge. So when I do a swipe and hold, what I normally try to do is get the bulk of the solution out, and then I come back with the swipe and hold technique. Okay, and then we're gonna go ahead and leave that for now. That'll be fine. Let's get the other side stretched into place, as well as get the middle squeegeed out. All right, let's make sure we don't have any pre-tacking. Ooh, this might not be stretch tight enough. We will see. I do have to do a little bit more stretching for that side. We're gonna find out. I don't know. I'm a little bit worried about that, but we'll see how it goes. I think I can make that go down. Okay. All right, I'm just lifting this up, getting some more slip under here. All right, let's squeegee all this out now. So I'm going to come across this body line first. I thought I could see some water in there. Okay, so let's get the body line first, and then we'll take all the rest of this up. Basically, we're just trying to get rid of the bulk of that slip solution. Then we're going to take the rest of this down. And again, we're just trying to get down to this line here. As far as over in this section, over here we can take it down further. Okay, let's take this down. Oh no, there's a little hair right there. Actually, that's good size hair. I'm gonna go ahead and lift this back up. Get my fingernail in there, and we'll kind of scrub at that. Okay, I broke it loose. Now let's flush it out. Nope, that didn't do it. Okay. Oh, that is not really tight enough on the bottom. We'll see if we can get a little bit more tension on it from that side. Also, we're gonna have to stretch this into place a little bit this way, and that should help tighten this up just a little. Okay. Squeegee this back out again. There's a little air pocket right there, so I just flipped around to the other side of this squeegee where I can get some more pressure on it than I can with this fine tip. Okay. Let's go ahead and let the air have a way to escape there. Okay, just double check, make sure that you got everything squeegeed out, you're not leaving any moisture behind. So I'm going to go over it just one more time. Okay, let's go ahead and stretch this part into place, and then we're going to come back and we're going to get these guys down here. Okay. So what I want to do here is, because this area has been sticking and drying, I'm going to go ahead and squeegee out about an inch or so. Maybe it could even be a little bit less. And squeegee a little bit out so that we basically get a new point to stretch from, so that we're not going from you know, something that's been sticking down so well to something that isn't stuck down at all. Because the problem with that is that then you're going to leave a stretch mark when we pull this into place. So we're going to give that just a few seconds here to set up a little and really start to stick down. I've got a little bit of air right here that's coming up over that body line, so I'm going to squeegee that down below the body line, and then we'll just leave that, but we are going to end up picking this back up all the way to that line there. Okay, so we've got some slip in there. We know we don't have any pre-tacking going on. I'm going to go ahead and put some tack solution on basically this section here, and put a little bit on the material as well, and then we'll just stretch this into place. So I'm coming back towards myself, and then I'm kind of going up towards the top and down towards the bottom. Okay, that looks really good. Unfortunately, I put the bottle between my legs. Let's see if I can drop that without breaking it. Great. I'm gonna hold this in place like that. And basically all I'm trying to do now is get rid of some of these fingers in it so it lays out a little bit flatter. And then we're gonna go ahead and squeegee all of this over to here. And then you can see there that I stopped short of this area because this is the area that we put the tack solution in. And I don't want to drag all of that slip solution into that, because then it's not going to want to tack here, because we're going to dilute the tack solution. Okay, so just like before, now we're going to go ahead and get all of this stuff to stay down by putting some tack solution in there and flushing out all of the slip solution. Okay. And we're just doing a swipe and hold into the recess in between the panels. Swipe and hold underneath the headlight. And definitely on this, I'm using what I would consider a pretty hard pressure. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and tack this down now, and then we'll start tackling some of these other areas. And we might as well squeegee some of this out while we're here. Okay. We're gonna need some tack solution in there to get that to stay down. All right, a little more tack solution in that, and then let's give this a little bit of a tug and get this, all these edges right here basically kind of glassed out so they're sitting nice and flat. Okay, then we're going to spray out these edges with tack solution. Okay, go ahead and squeegee most of that tack solution out, and then we'll go ahead and do that kind of a swipe and hold there. This one. Okay, great. Everything is down and staying stuck down. We don't have any edges starting to pop back up. That looks really good. And then we'll go ahead and get into here now. All right, so in order to deal with these parts, what we need to do is we need to trim the material right in there. A little bit of slip solution that was still in there, so we'll go ahead and squeegee that out. And then what I'm going to do, there. All right, let's see if that little bit of extra light is helpful, or if, let me know in the comments if that little bit of extra light I turned on there washes this out, or if you can see things that I'm doing better with the extra light. So I'm gonna go ahead and trim basically just right in between the fog light and the body of the bumper. And then we want to make sure and trim this material so that this can wrap around and leave enough to get full coverage on this part of the bumper, and then we will have to stretch back into there. So what we're going to do is come down to about here. So I'm going to push this in and then see where my edge needs to be, and then I'll go ahead and start cutting this. So just like a regular cut on the body, I'm just going to score the material, and then we're going to tear it. Oh, it's actually, that's fine. I'm actually going all the way through. So okay, now we get up here. I was going to just make the turn, but that wasn't going to work. Okay, so we're going to start right here now and come across. Oh, I got a little low. There we go. Okay. See how that works there, and how that does for us right here. So we're going to go ahead and get this to start tearing on that line that we just cut. Okay, so that looks really good. Got a little piece of dirt right there. Let's get that out of there. Okay, and then let's get this whole area broken loose from the paint. We're basically going all the way up to this line here. All right, and so now what we're going to do is stretch this back this direction and then down a little bit in order to get all the coverage that we need for this edge back here. And my hopes is really that because we cut such a nice line here, that I can actually line that up pretty well back in there, because it's really hard to get your blade in there to trim that, but it's still going to need some trimming. So I'm just letting you know, I do try to kind of line this edge up a little bit there as much as I can during this part of the process here. Okay, so we're stretching towards the back, and then we are letting the material come down into this recess. And the less tension that we have here, the better, but you also need to make sure that you can get rid of these fingers as well. So I wish there was a better way to explain this. And if you're doing, one of these for the first time, This is a great one to be doing because this is the easiest out of the Teslas. This is the easiest this area gets. All of the other models, this recess is a lot deeper, and so it's just more difficult to install this. Now, also a thing that you might want to do right here is that I really probably should have cut that into a circle, and let's just do that now just to demonstrate. No, we'll do it on the other side. It's just going to be too hard right now to get that down. But you don't want this, if you leave a mark or a straight cut down to a very, let's see, how do I want to explain that? If you just do a straight cut and just have it end like that, the problem is that the material is going to want to tear right there really easily. So you're going to need to be really careful if you don't do the corner. But if you do the U shape at the end, then you don't have to worry about that so much. So before we start stretching this into place, let's get this guy down. So we're going to get some tack in there. And then we'll go ahead and squeegee this down from the top. And I'm going to hold that with my finger in place. And while I'm holding that, you can kind of go over some other areas. Great. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this in place now. Oh, I've got a little piece of lint there. Dang it. It's really minor. I don't know. Nobody would have ever noticed that, but it just really bothers me. Okay, so we're going to stretch back into here, and then I'm going to hold this down here to make sure that we're not putting a ton of tension on the bottom here. And then by pushing that back in, I got a little, dang it, having a rough time with the little pieces of lint today. So I'm going to hold this down into place, and we're going to stretch this into place. And then by pushing my fingers on that material really hard up there, I'm actually getting it to start to tack down. And if that doesn't happen for you, you can put a little bit of tack solution in there. I am missing my squeegee that's cut at an angle. What the heck? Oh, here's a black one. All right, well, give this one a shot. Okay, so to get rid of some of these lines here, I am gonna just pull back just a little bit, and then we can squeegee these out. So I just pulled down and backwards just a little bit there. Okay, and we're gonna get most of this water squeegeed out here, most of the slip. And then we're gonna add some tack solution to this. Okay, so right here we're gonna need some tack solution. And I'm just basically kind of letting the material go into that recess a little bit, and I'm holding it away so that as I come down, we actually kind of get rid of that little, they just crease it on itself a little bit. You just lift that back up and then squeegee it back out. Okay, so right here it's continuously wanting to pop back up, so I'm going to go ahead and push that down and then hold. And there we go. All right, let's get some tack solution on this edge. And I end up pushing this, it's basically all the way hanging over, so that's, you know, that's pretty much how it goes. And then you have to get back in there with a blade and trim that, which is a little bit difficult. Okay, so So let's kind of get some of that out as far as the air out and kind of hold that down into place. Let's get this part down first, all the way up. And then we'll work our way back to here. So I'm gonna just take my finger and push all that out, and then we're gonna immediately follow that up with a squeegee and make sure that I didn't leave any moisture behind. Make sure you didn't leave anything on this edge here. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and get some tack in this part. And then we're going to go ahead and do kind of a swipe and hold on this. Let's get most of that out first, and then we'll swipe that down. Okay, great. That's looking really good right here, as you can see. And then all we're gonna have to do is come back and trim that back side off. All right, and let's check this up here. It is coming up just a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is just reach back in here, put a little cut on this, and then we're gonna cut back to that, release some of that tension that's in this piece here from trying to go over this light. Okay, and we'll get that pushed all the way up. Great. Okay, that's all looking really good. Now let's get this part wrapped over. Get some tack in there, and we'll go ahead and take this over to that edge. Okay, this part here, we might have to put a little slit in that. We'll see what that looks like here in a little bit. Okay, great. Let's go take care of the other side. A little bit coming up right here. I want this down all the way to this body line now, so let's go ahead and do a swipe and hold right on that edge. So when I stop the squeegee on there, I'm actually stopping right on that rounded edge, because you don't want to stop before that, because you can leave a mark in the adhesive there. Okay, so now let's go ahead and lift back up to this body line here. Just like that. Okay, so that's looking good. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do the little turn like I was saying we should have done on the other side on this end. And then we'll go ahead and come across here. So I'm not actually going all the way through the material, but I am scoring it just below the bumper. Okay, and then we'll push this into place so I can kind of see where I want this to be. Great. Okay. And then I want this to be over just a little bit further than it is currently. We're just cutting it off right at that edge. Okay, and then when I get down here, like I said, we're going to go ahead and make that kind of U-shape in it, like that. Oh, that got a little crazy though. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and tear that. Okay, there we go. Let's go ahead and get this down. Ooh, that's a lot coming out of there. Okay, good enough for now. And then let's see what we can do about getting this to... See, so here, when I came back around, I accidentally went like that direction, which isn't what I wanted to do. It's going to be just fine, but you see how close that makes that get to that edge? So we're gonna have to make sure we stretch it enough that that doesn't become a problem. Okay, so I don't really like to tack this area. Oh, look at this, come on. You guys gotta look at what we're doing. I can't show you how to do it if you're not paying attention. Oh, okay, so this is that edge I was just talking about. It actually, I would have wanted to turn and then kind of go back the same direction as we were coming down with this, but I accidentally went that way, and you have to be careful of that because what that can do is cause you not to get enough coverage when you stretch this down into place there. But we're gonna be okay. So let's go ahead, get some slip in there, and then we're gonna stretch this over and down. So I will hold this in place with my finger here, and then we're going to stretch this other part. Okay, that looks really good. Let's see what we can do about getting some of this squeegeed out underneath my hand here. Just to help tack it into place. Great. Okay, I'll go ahead, put some tack solution in there, and then we'll push this up to that light. Okay, make sure we didn't leave any water behind. And then let's get this recess down. So again, we're gonna come over to here, put a little tack solution in there. And then we're going to squeegee this down. Just like that. All right, now let's get this stuff out of here. All right, I'm going to get some water in this, or some slip in there. I'm just kind of gradually trying to get this material to go down and get rid of the fingers, and then I'm going to hold that into place, and we're going to come back over to this side and squeegee some of this out. So we're just trying to get out of that recess there and then down. Okay, so I watched some videos on YouTube of people installing paint protection film in these areas, and one of the guys, he like does the whole bumper, shows you everything, but he doesn't show you this section, and I'm like, well, that's useless. Because really, who cares about the rest of it? This is the hard part. All right, let's go ahead and get some tack in here now. Come up from the bottom here. Okay. Okay, so just like that, I just basically got that to kind of all lay down flat. And then we'll squeegee over this edge and hold. Just get a little bit more tack in this part. Okay. That's looking really good. Now let's get this part finished up here. So I'm gonna kind of try to push some of this out with my finger and then hold that down in place, and I'm gonna come back behind my finger and squeegee this out. We do have tack solution in there, so it should stay down as soon as we squeegee it down. And I'm gonna kind of wrap down that corner, and I'm going that direction as well, all at the same time. All right, let's go ahead and wrap this over. Okay. Then I'm gonna go ahead and hold my finger in there, in that recess, and really get that to stick down. And while that's sticking down, I'll kind of go through and double check some of these other areas. Make sure we didn't leave any moisture behind. And so the finger with the towel is just gonna help dry out some of that. Oop, I left a little water pocket there. Let's get that guy out right now. Get. All right, so on this part, I turned my squeegee around and was pushing this way because that's a much more aggressive way to push water out. You can get a lot more pressure on the material. Okay, that looks really good. We do have a little thing coming up right here. So let's go ahead and get some tack in there. And then we'll just bring this down over that edge and do a swipe and hold. And then we'll come back and worry about trimming all this later. Let's make sure this is staying down, and it's not. It's actually popping up just a little bit right there. So what we're going to do is cut out let's just make a line in this for now so that we can get some tack in there. All right, so we want to get some tack all the way around that so that we make sure that this stays down. There's not a lot of tension there, so it shouldn't be difficult once you get tack in there. Okay, great. All right, now get yourself a little bit more stretch in here, because this is going to be a little bit of a headache. We'll see how this goes. I'm a little bit disappointed, of course, when I get the camera out. This stuff, doesn't go as well as it usually does. As soon as I start recording. Okay. I think we're gonna be able to work with it, but let's go ahead first and get this stuff squeegee down here. So pull it back, check for any pre-tacking up there, and then we will get some tack solution up there. Okay, and basically where we're gonna want this to go back to is just over this lip and down to the next body line there. And then there is some underneath that you can attach it to as well. We just wanna make sure that we leave plenty to go all the way down here, because this is more important than that very underneath is. Okay. So let's see, if we were to tack that all the way up there, that still should leave us plenty of material down here. It's gonna be a lot too. Gosh, I knew that right at the beginning. I should have just pulled it back and restretched it. A little late though. Okay. So on these sides here, the other thing is that I'm wanting most of my coverage to be across the bottom here. So this type of thing, you're not gonna be able to get that whole area covered. There's just no material for that. The only way to get this whole area covered in here is to actually cut this whole section out and put a second piece in, and that'll get you full coverage on the bottom there, as well as rounding back in. I mean, as it is now, we just don't have enough material here to do that. So you've got to kind of pick what you want to cover. And what I want to cover is all the way back to here. And then as I come down, at some point, I'm going to round back out and then come across here like this and back out. Okay, so right about there, and we're going to make it just a little bit long so it goes underneath. So I'm pushing it back to that next body line, and then we're going to go ahead. I'm just going to put one blade out, barely. I don't need a battery. All right, and actually before we get down to that bottom part, let's go ahead and get this stuff wrapped up over this edge here and tacked down. I remembered I forgot about it. I would have done this earlier before we started stretching those bottom pieces into underneath the fog lights. I would have done this at that point. We're gonna go ahead and let's get some tack solution in here. Some slip solution on the surface. And then we'll go ahead and squeegee these out. Okay. You know, it's not a good idea to leave these for so long. We're going to be fine because we didn't put any tack solution in there. It's all just slip solution. But it's not a good idea to leave stuff like that for so long because you can end up with some squiggly line around where the material was tacked and not tacked. We didn't get any of that, so that's great. But I definitely would have wanted to take care of this sooner. All right, so again, we'll get some tack in here. Okay, now, this one is going to be a little bit more particular about how we get this out because I did wait so long. It can only leave through the area that's not tacked down yet all the way. Okay, there we go. So basically I'm just making sure that all this, the water that was pulled up right here, all comes together and just comes out this one little section. Where if you come back up and take care of this immediately after taking care of getting the bulk of the bumper installed, then you won't have to worry about that. Because you could just lift this center section up. Actually, let's just go ahead and do that anyway. Okay. Great. And then I'm going to trim off some of this excess right here because we are getting just a little bit of tension right here on this corner. Or let's see what we can do. Let's just put some more tack in there, and then we're going to push right into this recess here really, really well. There we go. I'm going to hold that in place while we take care of this other one. Okay, great. Double check the rest of that. Everything else, it was just these little areas here that were holding some moisture. Okay. Now let's get back on this bottom. Okay, so we're gonna take this back just to that next turn right there in the bumper. And so I'm going to go just past that. I'm gonna stick one blade in, or just the tip of one blade. And then we're going to cut all the way through the material right past that. Bring that across here. Okay. looks good. I am just going to bring it all the way down that line. All the way down to this corner here. Okay, and then at this point, we're going to come back over to about there and then bring this down. And we'll do a little turn right there, like that. I mean, because really, you know, like it'd be nice to have this whole part covered because that's going to be fairly visible from the customer, but really that part's going to take the rocks more. That's a tough call. That really is a tough call. You know, just do what you feel is best for your customer and for your installation. I'm going to do this one like this. Most of the time though, I do just basically come straight over and then down, and then that gets me full coverage down here so there's no line down there, which is nice as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and trim the other side. You know, where do you want your coverage to be? All right, so we came down to about here and just made this round. I think we went up, it's just a little bit, somewhere around an inch up. Like that, and then we're going to come straight across. And then let's see what we need to get over to get good coverage there. We need to come out a little bit more. And then we're going to start working our way up and around. Okay. I'm going to bring this down just a little bit to get a little bit more coverage out of this. That's perfect. All right, and then keep an eye where your next cut is so that when you come across, you bring them together. Or, and actually, this is, I'm a little high here, so I'm just gonna, well, that just cut right there. That should be fine. So that's not how I wanted to meet those two, but it is what it is. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do now is take care of this part, and then we're going to work on this bottom. All right, let's get some tack in this and get this laid down. Start out here in the middle. Now that I've got that tacked down, what I want to do is get this corner down because this is where all the stretch is going to be, and so I want it to be able to kind of pull from this whole area that isn't stuck down yet. So let's get that pushed down, and then we'll go ahead and squeegee that out. Okay, and then we'll take this stuff down. And then we'll turn the squeegee around and we'll wrap underneath. Same thing over here. Go ahead and get that in place. Oh, let's get a little more tack in there. Must have not got that flushed out good enough. Oh, I left a little air pocket there. Okay, let's try that again. There, much better. Chomp there. Chomp it down. All right, I'm just filling across the material to make sure that I didn't leave any of the solution underneath it. If you run across some ripples or bumps, you'll know you left some water in there. Okay, and then let's get everything off this edge first, around the bend there, and then we'll go ahead and get this to stick on down. Okay, now let's go ahead and get all this to lay down in place. So yeah, I mean, those are some solid fingers. I think I'm gonna be able to work with them, but is a little bit more than I wanted to have there for sure. Okay, so let's show you how to do this now. All right, let's get that kind of laid in there, and then what we want to do is kind of break up these fingers a little bit so that, you know, they're not like all right here and we don't have any here. We want them to be kind of evenly distributed throughout this install here, something like that. And the first thing I'm going to do is spray some tack solution underneath. Okay, and then let's once again make sure that we don't want the fingers, let's see, we don't want the fingers so much right here on the edge. It's better to kind of have them out a little bit. So we're just going to kind of move the material around and place it in here like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and squeegee this down to the face here. I don't know if you guys have ever done this before, but this is kind of it's another thing you can kind of do with the film is to kind of shrink it. You know, you basically just get rid of the finger by kind of spreading it out and then pushing it down. This definitely, like I said right at the beginning, should have had a little bit more stretch to it, and we would have been a little bit better off here, and this part then wouldn't take so long. But there is a fine line, because if you get too much stretch, like I said, it's a real bear, and the film does not want to stay stuck down in those recesses underneath the fog light. So I'm going to go ahead and chomp this all the way down. Okay, I'm not going to actually spend too much time on that, because that I know we're going to be able to get all that stuff down no problem. Let's go ahead and get the face pushed down all the way over to this side. So you can see I've got a lot of extra material bunching up right here, so I'm just going to lift that up and kind of spread that out a little. And let's get some more tack in there. Okay, so something like that, and then let's get this guy first here. Oh, that's quite a bit of extra material there. Okay, so I got it broken up into two, and that should be then manageable. Instead of just having the one that was right there, got it split into two now. And what I'll kind of do is go over it with my finger and just massage that down. Okay. Now let's start working our way back here to this the plastic back here. So you can see it's kind of got this cutout right here. I don't know what you think about that. What do you think about that? I like the coverage here, but at the same time, I don't really like that. So it's, you know, what do you guys think about that? Okay, let's get a bunch of tack solution in here. At least down to the middle here. And then we'll start squeegeeing this out. Okay. So I'm gonna just kind of lift up on it with my one hand. It's not really that I'm putting much of any pressure or anything on it. as far as like a tug or anything. I'm just holding it up so that those fingers, so the material can really spread out on here. And then we're just going to continue to take this back until it's pushed all the way out. Okay, and then I'm going to get just a little bit more tack solution in here. All right, so I'm basically just going right to that edge, and then I'm holding down with the squeegee, and the squeegee is like bending, and so this whole area here is actually the surface that's pushing on the material, and that just gets that stuff to stick down like really well right now. Okay, just checking to make sure I didn't leave any water behind. Let's go ahead and get this little guy down. Okay, there's that. Try that edge out. And what I'll probably do is we'll recut this and then just kind of make it turn and go into right here and not have it be so, that's just a really weird cut. And then, yeah, so what we'll end up doing is recutting this like that and then just turning right over to this spot here. All right, let's get some more tack solution in here. And we'll continue to push this down. Okay, I'm gonna go over here now, since this is where, you know, there was a bigger finger here, and start to get that going up. Kind of take this up a little bit evenly here. Just creased it over a little bit on itself there, so I'm going to go ahead and need to lift that back up. Right there. So let's get that spread out a little bit more. All right, and then you might also continue to get some fingers to pop up right here. And the way that we're going to take care of those is by trimming the material off right at that edge. And then we'll be able to push those down, and we'll be able to get all of the slip solution out of there, or the tack solution, and that will make those stay down. So right now they are popping back up, but that's not a problem that we're going to have once we get that edge dried out. And then also we'll come back at the end and heat seal all this, and that'll really make sure that it stays down. Okay, so let's take care of this guy right here. Make sure that that's all rounded in nicely. Okay, and then now we're going to take care of the bottom part here underneath. All right, so let's get some tack solution in here. And then we're going to go ahead and push all this down. So I'm going to put a little tension on that finger that's right there. Just a little bit. That'll help that go down. All right, so I'm just going just to the very end until I feel the squeegee go off of the material, and then I'm pushing up with this part of the squeegee back here. It's just doing a swipe and hold on this edge. And again, we might get some fingers continuing to pop back up, but once we trim that and push it out, that'll stay all stuck down. I do have an air pocket right here, so I'm gonna bring that back up. Get some tack in there, and then we'll go ahead and push this down again. Hmm, 12% battery life yet left. Let's see if we get it. Let's see if we make it before we need another battery. Okay, just keep pushing this down. We'll just do a chomp here. Using a couple different techniques as far as just chomping it down, and then also putting a tug on some spots to help get those fingers to lay down nicely. Okay, and then this I'm just going to go ahead and come down to the end there, hold that in place. And there we go. And it sure is nice. Let me go lift this, raise the lift a little, and get under there real easy. Oh, I've got to readjust the stand now. You need to be a little bit taller. Okay. Get some fresh tack in there, and we'll get this pushed down. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and trim some of this now. Since the car's up like this, might as well trim some of this on the bottom here. Because I think, well, first I'm going to go do is check everything and make sure that nothing's popping up. All right, something else I should mention here. You see how this is popping up right here? It's because there's a lot of tension. So what I will do first here is kind of cut this, and then we'll see if this is enough to relieve that tension. I'll put a cut in it right here. Okay. We'll see if that's enough to allow this to stay stuck down now. So when I'm working on Teslas, when they're not white, I will trim this right after installing it and getting it to stick down. That way you don't have to worry about these parts popping up, because it's much more noticeable on the black Tesla or any other color that makes. Besides the white or the silver would be okay too, but it's just good practice to go ahead and trim this right after the install. As far as you get that stay down and go ahead and trim it, and then you don't have to worry about this popping back up like that. All right, so let's go ahead and trim this bumper out. Now, like I was saying before, it is a good idea in these recesses here if you trim those immediately. So I probably should have done that. Although on a white vehicle, sometimes I skip and just go ahead to other things, because if it does pop up a little bit, you're not going to be left with really any lift lines that are noticeable. But if it was a black Tesla, for sure I would have just immediately cut those. And since I'm doing this as a demo video, you know, as far as tutorial, I probably should have just done that. So do that. So as soon as you get these into place, go ahead and trim at least this back edge and down around in here. And then you don't have to worry about those popping up after that. Terrific. Well, let's go ahead and do that now, and then we'll start working on trimming the rest of this out. I cannot believe I am standing in front of this car. That's so awesome. Like, I'm just so excited about this lift. Okay, let's see if we can get us both in here. So these are always tough to cut. It's just a difficult area to trim. And so what we're gonna do is start all the way up here at the top and then work our way down. Now, the way that you cut these, it's not the same. As you get further down, you're actually gonna be turning the blade at a sharper angle this direction, and that's how you're going to get it to continue down on that line. Okay, let's see if that got through. It's a tough area to trim. It looks like it did cut through, so that's great. I mean, as far as it was enough that I'm able to break it apart, not cut through into the paint. That wouldn't be great. It's just a really tough area to get trimmed. Okay, and then that top part I'll just leave in there for when we trim the top. So it did pop up just a little bit here. I'm going to go ahead and push that back down. Great. Okay, that looks really good. Let's go ahead and go cut the other side now. So I don't know if you can see that, but this one is just it's popping up just a little bit right there. And that's the type of area that you can end up with a little line in the adhesive if you let it pop up like that. So trimming it right away is definitely a better bet. So you'll notice this is a difficult area to trim, and you got to do some weird things with the blade to get it to get back in there, and then to get it to come straight down. So you're actually end up kind of like twisting the blade like this because you can't, you know, because it's back in there. In order to keep it going down straight, a lot of times you kind of have to turn the blade this way. It's just an interesting area to be trimming. Okay, oops, I keep getting too far off the paint, and we want to be right at the paint edge. Okay, and then we'll turn around. Well, I kind of just lost my line there, so let's go ahead and tear this off. Oh, I hate it when it breaks apart like that. Oh, good, I got another spot to come undone. If you didn't get deep enough, this is just a fun area, that's all. I mean, that's all I'm really trying to say here, is that it takes a while to get good at trimming these areas. Okay, here we go. And then let's take this one all the way up like that. And then we'll go ahead and push this little part down here. Great. Then I'll dry that out. And drying that moisture out will let us be able to look at it really well, make sure it's stuck down, as well as having that moisture gone from that edge will help keep it from just popping back up. Let's cut this all the way across now. So you can see we do have some tiny little fingers popping up on the edge, and we'll definitely just have to work with those. Let me see, I might try pushing those down again. Let's get a little moisture on the squeegee here from back there. Yeah, we're gonna have to work with it this way. This is just part of having a little bit of extra material in there. And once we get this trimmed, it will go and stay right down. Okay, so I'm just coming back about maybe like a 1/16 of an inch. You can try to just ride right on that edge as good as you can. And then sometimes when I'm going over those little fingers that are sticking up, you kind of do a sawing motion across them as you go across them, and that'll help you make sure that you're cutting through those. Otherwise, what you'll find is that when you lay them over on themselves, like you go across it this way and it kind of makes this other side lay flat, that you'll miss a little spot there. Okay. Hopefully I probably didn't catch any of that on camera. We'll see. Oh, I got a little bit more than 1/16 there. I'm gonna keep that line nice and tight to the edge. All right, let's see if we can get our fingernail in that, pull back on it. There we go. Okay, yeah, see right there, that one I didn't get fully cut through there, so I lost my edge there. Let's see if I can get it back. There we go. So I'll come at it this other direction now. There we go. I don't think I got enough pressure on this. Goodness gracious. So you can see once you get that dried out, that's going to stick down great. All right, I'm going to come back down over here and see if I can get this to tear away. Looks like I was going pretty light on my pressure. There we go. Okay, so now so like when this isn't working, I'll go ahead and start somewhere else, and then we'll cut right there, and then we'll go ahead and bring this on down this direction now. Man, this must be my first time trimming paint protection film. Oh, yeah, I definitely just didn't get enough pressure on that blade. Damn. There we go. Right there, down to the next spot. I didn't get enough pressure on to right there. Okay, great. So just dry those out. That'll help them stay stuck down, and then we will be coming back around and heat sealing all those. So if anything does pop up a little bit, don't worry about it. Give it a little bit of time. Like that one just came back up. We'll give that a little bit of time to dry, and then we'll push it down once the adhesive gets a little bit more tacky, and it's gonna stay right down. All right, let's see what of this I got enough pressure on. Okay, we want to make sure that we're pulling away with our, when we're tearing on this line. We pull back towards ourselves and we happen to catch an edge that we didn't cut through enough on, it's going to tear the material. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and take care of this now. Basically, my line stops here, and I'm just going to join from there to there. And we're going to have to come from this direction, from the top down. So basically when I'm doing this, what I'm looking at actually is where I'm going to be finishing my cut. I was looking back here to make sure I was lining up correctly. Okay. Great. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and trim this bottom out now while the car's up so high. So we're going to be cutting right along the bottom there, right before the black plastic. And then I'm going to come up a little bit in this area to make sure when we fold around, we're not bumping that bottom. Okay. Okay, let's tear that. And we do have a couple little fingers there. Go ahead and squeegee those out, and then I'm going to push them out with my finger and the towel. Could also just put some tack solution in there, but with the towel is going to be fine. And then I'm going to re-go over those edges with the heat sealing process. All right, we do have a couple little fingers here coming up, so I want these down a little bit closer to the edge or all the way down if possible. So let's go ahead and push these back down. If you don't have any of the fingers popping up like that across your cutting line, that's better, because you don't have to worry about, you know, folding those little creases or those little fingers over and not getting a good cut. You'll notice when I'm trimming paint protection film, I quiet down quite a bit. You'll also notice that my environment that I'm in here is super quiet. I'm really focusing on my trimming. I'm listening for the squeak if I can get it, and you just don't want any distractions. Okay. All right, we've got the next little part prepped for the trim. Okay, again, bump these edges out. Okay. Push all these little fingers down. This is from just having all that excess material and not getting quite a bit enough of a stretch in the center here. It's going to work out just fine. As you saw, we were able to get all that down. It just takes a little bit more time. Okay, and I'm actually, this is looking pretty good over here. I'm just going to continue all the way around. And then again, when I get to this edge, I'm going to go ahead and turn it up at about a 45-degree angle. Okay, let's go ahead and go from our tear mark here. Okay. Try this edge out. All right, these guys are wanting to come back up a little bit. I'm gonna get some just water and put it in there with them. Nope, I'm gonna put some tack. I'm going right for the tack. Okay, you know what? The problem with these, for these guys, is they're hanging over the edge just a tiny bit. We're gonna see how that goes. Yeah, they're hanging over just a tiny bit. That's gonna make them not want to stick down. Okay, got a little air pocket right here. Stuff my fingernail in there and flick it back. Okay. All right, so in this area here, what we're gonna do is just hang over. Basically, what I'm looking for when I'm trimming this is just to come over this edge, this rounded edge, and then line up right in that crevice where the bumper starts to head that direction. So I'm going to go ahead and start down here. All right. And then we'll go ahead and wrap this in. Little slide chomp here. And really, I don't know why I feel it necessary to take the fender flares off and the cameras out and everything. I mean, really, I take the fender flares off because I want to get the cameras out for the fender install. So this is just like something with the bumper that is just part of that, right? Because it's already off, so you might as well wrap back in there and not have an edge here. But there is a seam right here in the bumper. So if you were just to cut right on that edge, I mean, really, it'd look fantastic. So okay, there we go. Let's go ahead and take care of the other side, or let's take care of around this, and then we'll take care of this here. All right, so across here, we basically just went kind of closer to the bumper than to the fog light and went all the way across. And then this bottom part, I'm just going to cut like just over the lip. I don't want to go too far underneath there, because if you do have problems where the film doesn't want to stick or it doesn't want to stay down, you can get stuff caught in the dirt, can get caught underneath it, and it can pop up and get dirt under it. Now the problem with that is that because the fog light's clear, you can see right down into there, so that could definitely, you know, it's very visible. Okay, so I'm going to come all the way over here. Make a little turn there. All right, and then as it dives back further underneath the fog light, it does get kind of, it's an awkward angle to cut. Okay, so with this part here, what we need to do is kind of get this stuck flat to the bottom of the fog light so that we can get in there and trim that. Because basically it's kind of like crunched in there. It's, you know, got these fingers and stuff in it, and that's going to stop us from getting an angle on the blade that we can trim that. All right, so I'm gonna start over here from where this piece ends, and then we're just gonna bring it across. Nope, I went a little high there, so I'm gonna come back a little ways. And actually, let's see where we cut to and see what that looks like. Oh, I kind of popped this corner up here. Nope, all right. Go ahead and push that back down and trim that again. Okay, when I ran the squeegee across it, it did break the cut loose, so that's good. So I'm gonna hold that down and then just kind of do this tear here. You can see we're just right on that edge there. That looks great. Okay, so I'm gonna pick up basically where I ended, which is right there. And we'll continue to trim all the way around. And then where did this guy end? Right there. Okay, so we'll go up a little and boom. Nope, it started tearing. Okay. Off the cut. Okay, there we go. Let's go ahead and bump that edge, get it dried out. Okay. And then we'll go ahead and tuck this in there because that's had a while to dry. Okay, now this corner here may or may not stay stuck down. We're gonna have to see when we come back through with the heat sealing process and then kind of keep an eye on that. Sometimes if you don't get close enough to the corner in the paint, this part doesn't want to stay stuck down. So we'll take a look at, keep an eye on that and check it out later. All right, so when we're trimming around this, we basically just want to trim off and leave it just long enough that it wraps over onto the edge, but doesn't go so far back as to where it hits the plastic and then has to make that turn, because that's going to cause it to want to pop up. So you can see here with this part, I can't go quite as deep or as far back, so just keep an eye out for that in the back. So this one we're going to get pretty close to the edge, and then we're going to come out a little bit. So we've got some more area that we can round down and or round around and stick to on the rest of this, that around that, you know, that part is the closest part. Okay, great. I'm gonna go ahead and dry out all the moisture that's right there. I'm not so worried about getting that to stick down right now. We'll get that later after it dries a bit. All right, now we're getting into a couple areas we've already done once. Just gonna kind of try to get some of this stuff done. Coming across here, I'm just going to stay on the top edge of the bumper. Let's see, or should I cut? I think I'll maybe just try, we'll see. This is getting a little carried away. Well, actually, I'll show you that later. I'm going to try something up there, see how it goes. All right, so we're going to go ahead and trim this side off here. So I'm going to come right here, and then I'm going to angle this down a bit. And then we'll tear this away. Make sure when you're tearing that away, that, you know, I'm holding this in place so that it can't lift this material up. But then you also want to make sure that your tear line doesn't go running off into your pattern. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and cut this down. And I'm just staying on that side of these holes because there's parts on the flare that go into there. And we're going to dive back over a little bit and then bring this on down. Okay. Now we will go ahead and squeegee this down. So we're going to wrap all these edges over. Let's see. I need to get a little bit of slip. Okay. So what I'm going to do is go down this body line first. I can see that it's holding just a little bit of air and water in it. And we're going to try and get that seam there. It's not a body line, it's a seam. We're going to try and get that seam to have as little moisture in it and air in it as possible. Okay, and then we'll just wrap this around. Do a slide chomp here. That's not wanting to stay down, but we'll get that during the heat sealing process. Great. Okay, take care of this guy and then we can lower the car down. All right, so again, we're gonna start way over here. We wanna make sure that this is laid pretty flat onto that fog light so that we don't have the material bunching up and we're gonna be bumping into it. So I'm gonna start back here where I left off with the cut. Going up We'll bring this cut around. Okay. Okay, there we go. Get that to tear. Okay. And then just to be certain that that can just pop the material up, I'm going to go ahead and hold my squeegee on this edge here. Okay, great. Squeegee that out. And I'll dry this out a bit. All right, let's get up to the top of the bumper. You know, I'm just going to go ahead and trim this right on the edge here. I've tried to tuck these in before and it might work and it might not. It is extra work and you really have to keep an eye on it to make sure it doesn't pop back up. You are asking a lot of the material to make that little bend and then stick down when there's not much material or there's not much bumper in there for it to wrap and stick to. It's not like you're going over it and then you have a flat surface that you can attach to. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this off. I'm going to come across and then I'm just going to go just below that. There's a little line on the bumper here. I'm going to stay just below that. Okay, now here I'm just staying on the face of the bumper again, and then actually what we're going to do is we're going to cut in between the two and then tuck that in. So let's first tear this away. So you can see there I did stay up just a little bit still. It's pretty close. And I quit about right there. Okay. Okay, so now what I'm going to do for this part, I'm actually going to take a couple blades. I'm going to go back in there in between the headlight and the bumper, and I'm going to cut that material back in there. Oh, it gets real tight right there. That's not, normally you can fit your blade in there all the way across around. But right here, the headlight is actually touching the bumper. Okay, so we'll come over across here. A little turn. And then what I'm going to do is come around this on the face, and then I'm going to go back a little bit, and then again we'll come out just a little so that we can tuck that just right to that edge. So let's peel this off. Okay. dry out that edge. And then let's push this one down. There we go. Okay, so what I want to do with this right here is that we have plenty of bumper to wrap around and stick to. So I'm going to go ahead and leave about 1/4 inch hanging over, and we'll cut the rest away. Notice that I'm using my left hand to keep tension on the material. I'm pulling away from the blade, back away from the blade, and then also going up a little there, and that keeps a good tension on that edge so I can get a nice straight cut. I'm using my thumb as a guide across the bumper edge, and then we'll go up like this, and then we'll get that turn when we're cutting this piece. All right, let's get some tack in here. Actually, let's cut this piece first, and then we'll get some tack in here and wrap all this in. Okay, so I'm gonna come over, round down, stay on the face for a little bit, and come over to about here. And then we'll take that back towards the headlight. Okay, let's see if I got into that enough. Okay, so I'm actually going to take this and cut this all the way off the edge, and then actually cut through the material like that, and then we'll see if I can tear on that line. No, I didn't get enough pressure on it. Gosh, I'm having a tough time today. All right, let's get a new blade. Make sure you're snipping your blades off fairly frequently when you're trimming, because if it gets a little bit dull, it's not going to cut the same. You're going to have to use more pressure, which is a bit dangerous to do. Okay, so I'm guessing all we needed was a new blade. Yep, I can actually, oh, there's some squeak. I can feel it biting the material more. Okay. Let's see. I kind of screwed up my, I'd like to get that cut off the side and then use that to tear on. Let's see where else we can get this to break. Basically just sticking my thumbnail into it and then pulling away, and that will get it to tear on that line that we trimmed on. Okay, there we go. And then we'll go ahead and work this up. I really want to get this like this though. It's so much easier to tear like this than to continue doing that thing with the squeegee. Okay, and then we'll get, I'm gonna put my finger right here to make sure that I don't pop off of the bumper. And then we'll go ahead and tear this over. Let's get this broken loose back here. Okay, and we'll come across. Dry that edge out. All right, let's get all this tucked in now. Some tack solution on here. And we'll be using a slide chomp on this. So I find it normally takes about 3 passes. Just first one, get over the edge, second one, work down a little bit further, and then the third one, take it all the way down. And when I get to these corners here, I like to start and come back the other direction, so I don't bunch a bunch of material up on the corner right there. Okay. Now let's go ahead and trim this one again. We're going to go ahead and go back in there just a little bit in between. We're going to try and hide this edge. So we're going to go ahead and trim the material back in there. And then at some point here we have to bring it back out because we're getting really tight right here. So let's see how that trimmed. Okay, very well. Okay. Okay, let's bring this all the way over now. Going right along that top edge. Getting just the faintest squeak out of it. I didn't get it cut all the way to the edge, so I'm going to go ahead and lift this up a little bit, cut it, and then that's going to give us something to tear from back here. And then we'll get this edge dried out. Oh, this is going to be the longest video ever. I feel like I've been doing this forever. Hope I'm not boring you guys to tears. I hope you're learning something. All right, I'm going to get a little tack solution in here. And then we're going to go ahead and tuck this in. A couple different tools I'll use for this. One is just your regular squeegee here. And then you can also use something like this guy here. Although this is too thick to fit in there, so I'll use the other side. That'll kind of help you get some more pressure on that edge. Okay, let's dry this face off. All right, terrific. So that's the process of installing the paint protection film on there and then trimming it out and tucking a few edges. I'm going to go ahead and let this sit for just a little bit. I'm actually going to go around, wipe it down, dry everything off, let it sit for just a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and do the heat sealing process. All right, so now that this is sat for a while, let's go ahead and heat seal these edges, and then this bumper should be all finished up. The one other thing that I am going to do that I'll throw in at the end is me covering the tow hook cover and how we wrap it behind it. And that's going to be it for this bumper. Terrific. Let's heat seal these edges. Every edge, every time. Serious. Every edge, every time. All right, we'll go ahead and start right up here. So I'm just warming that edge up and then pushing it down with my finger. And that's going to help that edge stay down so that it doesn't pop up and get dirt underneath it. So if you have, every once in a while you have an edge that pops up on a vehicle, chances are if you heat sealed it, that wouldn't happen. So make sure you're heat sealing. You want to be very methodical about the heat sealing process because you don't want to miss any edges, which is easy to do if you just got done doing like a full vehicle and you're going around and getting all the edges. That can be easy, you know, it's easy to miss things. So here I'm going to just put some heat in there underneath the headlight. And then because it's such a small area, I'm going to take this card here and we're going to push that back in there and just get some pressure on that edge. And I'll also use this side here with the felt on it in areas where it'll fit. Okay, let's get this edge. Whew, the heat gun's a little hot today. It was up at like 1,000 degrees. I'm gonna drop it down to somewhere right around 700. All right, let's go ahead and get you a little bit different angle here. All right, so we're gonna, if you have anything sticking up, it's best to push that down first with your finger and then go over it with the heat. Because obviously if the paint protection film is not touching the bumper, when the heat hits it, it can't transfer to the bumper. So you're actually just really heating up the material, and then that's gonna give you a good possibility of one, burning the material, two, you heat it up really hot, and then when you go to push your finger across it, it just like bunches up on itself, and you end up putting like a little bunch of little creases in it, and then that's gonna have to be trimmed off. There's no fixing that. All right, so another thing to keep in mind is that when you're heating this up, if you start getting to where you're feeling that your glove is starting to really grab the material, that means the material is getting too hot. And so you're gonna either need to move faster or you're going to need to turn the heat gun down. And so we're just heating up each edge and then pushing it down. So right back in there, it looks like that's gonna stay down nicely. I know I was pointing that out earlier. That's looking really good. Before it goes home, I will take a look at it again, make sure that it hasn't popped back up. If it has it all popped up, then I'll just make a slit in it straight diagonal like that, right over to this corner, and then wrap it back in and it'll be fine. All right, so I'm heating this whole thing up here, and then we're gonna go ahead and slowly start contouring that in. I'll give it one more heat there and then really push that edge down. Okay, and we'll go ahead and bring these out. Some more heat on the bottom here. And basically I'm just working my way across. As you can see, all those little fingers that were popping up earlier are staying down just fine now that we got the water out of that edge. And this is a very, slow, methodical, boring process, but it really will help in the longevity of your installs. So this one here, I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but there's about 1/8 of an inch that isn't stuck to the bumper. So I'm gonna go ahead and push that down with my finger first. and then we'll go ahead and put some heat on it and heat seal it. All right, you want to get these areas really good because there was some extra tension there from stretching those into place. Okay, and then I've got a little thing right here in this corner that I can't quite reach with my glove and my finger. So I'm gonna go ahead and put some pressure on that with this tool here. Okay. And this seam that's in this bumper, I'm gonna go ahead and push all the water out. You can actually see it coming out the top there. And then I'm gonna put some good heat on it right on that top and really get that to stay stuck down. That way that minimizes any possibility of this lifting up and then, you know, dirty water getting down inside of this here. Okay, great. We've made it all the way back around. All right, terrific. Well, I appreciate you taking a look at this video. If you found something useful or helpful, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. All right, so let's go ahead and cover this tow hook cover with some paint protection film. So we've got a little scrap here that I cut into a, you know, semicircle. A little slip solution on there, and then we're just gonna line this up so we've got good coverage all the way around it. I'm gonna hold it in place with my thumb. Let's get some slip on the actual paint protection film and we'll squeegee this out. Okay, let's go ahead and trim these edges. So I'm gonna leave about 1/8 of an inch hanging over. That's a little bit wide, but that's okay. We're not really concerned about the edge either, as far as if it's not, you know, really contoured really well. It's not going to make any difference because you're not going to be able to see this material once it gets wrapped around to the back. Okay, we'll go ahead and do that, and I'm going to go ahead and spray a little tack in these edges because I want them to cure a little bit faster so that we can get this install finished up here. So by slapping off of it, I'm helping eliminate some of the moisture from the bottom, just getting it out of there. And then we'll go ahead and let this dry like this, and then I'll come back and we'll wrap this around and reinstall it. Okay, so we've gone ahead and let this dry, and now we're gonna go ahead and wrap these edges. I'm gonna go ahead and heat from the adhesive side. Get that adhesive warmed up and real good and tacky. And we'll heat the other side a little bit. Okay. Let's go ahead, and I'm just going to wrap over the edge a little bit and then continue to go a little bit further. Great, now we can just finish wrapping this all the way around. So I'm using lots of my fingers here to just push this around to the back side. And then we want to take a look at it and make sure everything's staying down. And it looks like we got it good and warm and everything's staying down, but just to double check that, what you can do is put some heat on this edge, because you can give it a little bit more heat now that you're not going to be like hitting the top or the face here that you're going to be able to see, and we can actually kind of a little bit overheat this, and it's going to be okay. Okay, so there we go. And then again, we'll just go around. So now that my glove is not sliding really well across the material, and that means that I've got it a little too warm, which is okay on the back side. I wouldn't want to do that on the face. Great. Let's get this reinstalled. Okay, so what we're going to want to do is that this piece is going to be going up that way, but we want to go ahead and get these wires reattached here. And I always put them on so that this side here that's further away from the connector is facing towards the bumper part, or I don't really know. Is that explained correctly? I always put this part that's sticking out towards the bumper here part. Okay, and we're going to slide that up and in. You can feel that there's a groove there for it to go kind of into. There won't be anything on the back, so you can't just continue to push it in, but if you pull it kind of towards the bumper, it'll help line it up. And then there's a spot right here where this clip goes in right there. Like that. And that looks fantastic. There's no edges that are going to catch dirt. That's going to look great forever.